CHAMPS Live is presented by Lawrence Technological University, where Blue Devils dare. Hungry Howie's, famous for flavor. And the Detroit Medical Center. Do you have a sports injury or are just looking to take your game to the next level? Go where the pros go. Visit dmc.org/gamechangers.
Hey everyone, it is National Rotisserie Chicken Day and National Rocky Road Day. So after the show, grab a drumstick and a scoop. Welcome to episode 44 of State Champs Live, presented by Lawrence Tech. You know, one of the great perks of being a student at LTU is you get to take advantage of career services, offering a variety of help in your initial steps in job searching and career preparation. The staff at Lawrence Tech will help you develop or critique your resume, assess your interviewing skills, provide networking strategies with employees, and so much more. Students looking to connect with the thousands and thousands of incredibly connected alumni around the world have access to a platform called Handshake that focuses on the jobs you're best qualified for. If you're interested in the most rewarding future possible, take some time to learn more about Lawrence Technological University. Visit ltu.edu. We are live right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter every Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. My name is Lauren Plant, and our guest today is the MHSAA Director of Broadcast Properties, John Johnson. We have a lot to discuss, but first, let's get to the headlines for Tuesday, June 2nd.
Michigan Helmet Challenge wraps. After 48 hours of voting in the finals and 2 weeks of contests overall, the Michigan Helmet Challenge has finally produced a champion. Livonia Franklin edged Troy by a margin of just 50.9 to 49.1%. 2,873 votes were cast, and Franklin now moves on to the National Helmet Tournament later this month. Overall, more than 47,000 votes were cast in the challenge's 65 total polls, with Patriots supporters producing more than 4,400 of those for their team. Congratulations. Stay at home lifted early. While most involved in high school athletics were set to wait until June 13th, after expiration of Michigan's stay-at-home order to begin slowly reintroducing activity, they got a pleasant surprise Monday when Governor Gretchen Whitmer lifted the order early, moving the state into Phase 4 of its recovery. Among the things allowed, the immediate expansion of the maximum for outside gatherings from 10 to 100 people, and the opening of parks and recreational facilities. Outdoor fitness classes and athletic practices and training sessions can begin on June 8th, but indoor gyms, fitness, and recreation centers and sports facilities remain closed. Big Ten creates coalition. The first African-American commissioner of a Power 5 conference, the Big Ten's Kevin Warren announced Monday, along with existing diversity councils on Big Ten campuses, the league will be creating an anti-hate and anti-racism coalition, inviting coaches, athletic directors, chancellors, and school presidents to join in an effort to empower the league's student athletes in creating meaningful change.
All right, those are the headlines. Let's get to today's Hungry Howie's Twitter question of the day. Should Armando Galarraga's imperfect game be corrected? Yes, it was clearly a mistake. No, the call was the call. Quick funny story as it relates to that. And it wasn't funny at the time at all. Yours truly, myself, was hired as a temporary person to be the PA announcer for the Tigers the weekend after the Armando Galarraga game. So it was the first game that Armando Galarraga was going to pitch for the Tigers since that event. Well, needless to say, sometimes we make mistakes in life. And when I was introducing him over the PA announcer at Comerica Park, I called him Andres Galarraga and not Armando Galarraga. Now, I corrected that immediately. However, it's just one of those moments that will live in lore as far as my history goes, my brief history as PA announcer for the Detroit Tigers. So we still encourage you to find State Champs Michigan on Twitter and vote. We'll read the results tomorrow. Okay, we always truly appreciate when we can talk with the Michigan High School Athletic Association. We have been partners for the last several years to further promote and support the entire high school sports scene across the state. unfortunately, and certainly not everywhere, but high school sports coverage has dwindled. And both state champs and the MHSAA want to lift it up and celebrate all of those involved that truly help bring communities together through competition. The director of broadcast properties, John Johnson, joins us today on the show. Welcome, John, and thanks for coming on.
Lawrence, pleasure to be with you today.
All right, great. So if you have questions for John Johnson, now's the time to ask on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. John will do his best to answer them the best that he can, and we'll get to those later in the show. Now, first off, I think we were all surprised on Monday when Governor Whitmer moved into phase 4 of the reopening of the state. How does what the governor said yesterday affect what you guys put on paper and out to the public on Friday?
Well, we kind of wish that Friday and Monday had been different, had been switched, quite honestly, because it did put us into a little bit of scramble. It caused more questions coming from the membership. It's something that our staff has worked very rapidly to address, and something that this afternoon, Lauren, we will be sending something out to schools with more specific information now based on what the governor announced yesterday. I think the curveball came when we got a 100 cap on the activities that could take place outdoors. And so, obviously a lot of people are excited. A lot of people want to try and get back after it. We want that to happen as quickly and as safely as we can, but we'll be giving our schools guidance all along the way.
Okay, so you guys will be updating what you had put on Friday. For those who maybe did not see the guideline, there were other items in there that maybe aren't affected just by the number of people that can gather. Can you just summarize it for us?
Well, it starts with when can you do things at your school? And that's one of the things that we're going to point out in the new document that goes out today, that, you can open up as long as the superintendent of the district says. We're going to open our facilities. And has the academic school year ended for your school? Those are two key dates that people have to remember. We get a lot of questions on that, but, we'll tell people in your communities, check with your school. They're the ones really that are, they hold the keys to, getting things back and going again. And then, the other stuff that we'll be hitting on will be based on, we have all of these things that we can do outside. What does that do according to the STEP program that we put out there last week? So those are the things that we're trying to give people an update on. I see you've got them on the screen right now. Competition, we're not to competition yet because we still have physical distancing. We're taking social distancing out of our vocabulary. We're going to call it physical distancing. Lauren, you've seen enough basketball to see referees go like this in basketball, 6 feet, closely guarded. We need 6 feet. Can't have competition right now because you can't have 6 feet in 7-on-7. You can't have 6 feet in baseball, those kinds of things. But we're going to be in a position where we can start having conditioning. We can start having people doing the drills. Everybody's been on the shelf for 3 or 4 months. So, people got to get back into the groove, and, we're going to help point them in the right direction.
Okay, that's good. Well, we got a lot of opinions from people all over who are starved for high school sports, trying to think of creative solutions to have school sports in the upcoming 2021 school year. Now, one is completely altering the landscape and trying to make responsible decisions by switching many of the sports seasons to try and move maybe some sports to the fall that do not involve the contact that others do. For instance, in the fall, allow sports like boys and girls golf, boys and girls tennis, baseball, softball, boys and girls swimming, and cross country, while maybe football and boys and girls soccer, maybe even volleyball, become spring sports at least just for a year.
We've had those similar discussions, more in terms of not doing things together as a block, say, golf with golf, tennis with tennis. But, we've talked a little bit in the ways that the colleges have talked. Do we dare move fall sports to the spring and bring spring sports, which are all outside, to the fall, especially if there's no spectatorship or limited spectatorship? Because, you don't want to talk about money, but sometimes it's about money. because you have to have schools. They've got budgets to make. The association has budgets to make. And where does everybody make their money? Football. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That's the way it is. But right now, we really think that we're on a path suddenly, very suddenly, where, hey, maybe the fall doesn't look as bad as we once thought. And so, but there's a long way to go. And I think that's the thing that we have to emphasize to people. While training can get going now, and people can get off the shelves and get after it in some ways, a lot of things have to happen before decisions are made to say, hey, are we going to be able, that first week of August, be able to have fall sports practices start? And then when we get to that last weekend of August, are people going to be able to come to the games? We hope so. That's what we're all working for right now. And, cross your fingers, maybe we'll get there.
Right. So just to be clear, the situation we're looking at now, and obviously it's still wide open and we're still in a wait and see. But if everything in a best case scenario happens, then we're just going to continue with fall sports as we would any other year.
That's been our plan right from day one, is to start working on fall sports and be able to turn on a dime like we've had too many times because of this virus. These are unprecedented times. You've heard everybody. That sounds like an old, weak not argument, but saying. But you know what? You got to be able to, go literally with the flow when things that are not in your hands, and those kinds of things right now are not in our hands. Right. When they dictate. The other big thing to remember too here, Lauren, is financially, schools are taking a monster hit from the general budget from the state of Michigan. And they're going to be asked to do all of these different things now to make the learning atmosphere in school, the school day, safer, for kids. That's going to cost a lot of money. And what do people talk about when you got to divert money? One of the first things they talk about cutting: athletics, extracurriculars, busing, that kind of stuff. And so, we've got to be on guard, but we have to be ready to face the reality that, the budget might catch up with us in a way that we hadn't quite anticipated. And, it'd be another outcome from the virus.
Right. Absolutely. And that is exactly where I was going with it. Can you see any scenario that even if schools reopen, and I understand that it very well could be a combined online at home and in class, kind of alternating schedules for the kids so they're not all together at once? Could it be even with school in session, we still don't have sports?
That's going to be something that's made at the local level. That won't be an MHSAA call.
Okay.
It depends on the school district that you talk to. I saw something on Student and Educator Robert McLean's feed this morning talking about Ann Arbor. And Ann Arbor is, in great shape in terms of its fund equity. Well, they're blessed, but you got a lot of school districts that are not. And, they're going to have to try to come up with creative ways to, preserve extracurricular athletic opportunities. And, hey, band and drama and that other stuff, too. That's all important. So that's going to vary school district by school district. I would not be surprised if we saw some school districts say, hey, maybe this year we can only do varsity, which is kind of a shame because more of your kids play sub-varsity than play varsity. But right. Those kinds of decisions being made, it's not what you want to happen, but, I think schools are going to try to preserve as well-rounded a school experience as they can, and that includes extracurriculars when we get down here to August and September. And hopefully we'll see scenes just like this with kids out running at Metro Park and down at MIS, and you guys cover all of this stuff so well. Hopefully we'll be able to see all of this without interruption.
Absolutely. We're going to get your questions for the MHSAA's John Johnson next and talk about his really cool project that he has pumped so much of his time into in just a few minutes. But first, today's version of This Week in State Champs History.
We go back to 2007 and a Division I pre-district softball opener as the three-time defending state champs Warren Regina took on Grosse Pointe North. Both teams came in ranked in the top 5 going into this tussle. Kerry Gallagher with the mammoth shot over the wall in center and off the van to give North a 1-0 lead. Regina would tie it up, and in the 7th, Tara Lamilsa comes through with the shot up the middle. Paige Shields scores as Regina wins 2-1 the final. A few weeks later, the Satellites went on to claim its 4th consecutive Division I state crown. This Week in State Champs history is presented by Lawrence Tech Athletics. Recruit yourself at ltuathletics.com.
All right. Well, we asked for questions, and we certainly got some questions there, John. So I'm going to throw them at you. Just answer them the best way you can, and we'll just try to lightning round this the best we can. So Mike Rose wants to know, do you see coaches, players, and officials being tested before each game?
One of the things that was in the document that went out last week did talk about before practices and before competitions, at least taking the temperature of athletes. COVID-19 testing, that kind of thing, schools are going to have a hard time affording that kind of stuff. But the guidelines that have come out from the National Federation, which our document that we published last week picks up a lot of, does say every time you get those kids on campus for practice or for a game, give them the quick check. Hey, are you showing the symptoms? What's your temperature? If your temperature's over 100.3, you're done. You're not going to play that day, or you're not going to practice that day. I think given the limited resources that schools have, that's probably the best that we can do right now.
Right, absolutely. And you kind of alluded to this already. We got a question from Twitter. What kind of impact will the governor's order have on indoor sports?
Well, right now, everything that the governor has talked about is outdoors. And so when we say that we can start having indoor activities again, it won't probably be with a group of 100. It's probably going to go back to what we describe in our plan, step 1. It'll probably be 10 people when we get that. Can't say that for sure because we don't know anything for sure. What's going to come? What's going to come next? But this is like everything else with this scenario. So much of this is out of our hands. All we can do is react to what comes down the pike.
All right, Jeff Heyer asks, is there any way you can save this spring sports seasons, even perhaps just play districts?
No, the Representative Council made that very clear back at the beginning of May. It tried to, provide an allowance for schools if we were able to have some kind of summer ball, to do something we normally don't do with summer ball, and that's let them wear their school uniforms, one last time to try to, just get that feeling. For a kid, there's nothing better for a kid sometimes than putting on that uniform. Give them one more opportunity to do that, but no, the school year in terms of that, the school year is over.
All right. Brett Ross wants to know, really like to know how soon we can get the kids back into the weight room. Well, maybe if they set up an outdoor weight room, that could be possible.
That could be possible. That stuff's heavy, but you got probably a lot of bodies that can help you carry it outside, I guess. But
that's right. You get your workout just carrying it outside.
That's right. But a lot of things can happen outside. I mean, swimming, we think of swimming as an indoor sport. No, swimming can, if they've got access to an outdoor pool, they can get after it. It's just right now you just can't do anything inside. And, that's what we've seen some creative, workout places start to talk about, is moving their setups out into their parking lots.
Right. Okay, last question. And this one asks, would the MHSAA be willing to waive the no broadcast rules so we could watch fall sports via Facebook Live or some other way?
I'll put one caveat on that. If there is limited or no spectatorship, something will happen. I can say that for sure. Okay. Because you're going to have all of these displaced partisans who are going to want to try to keep up with the action. And we're going to work with schools to, enable them to be able to, get their images of their kids out to their communities. Absolutely. And, and if it's business as usual, there are some programs in place for schools to be able to do games on their own already, using closed groups in Facebook Live or using a password protected environment like on YouTube, or using the MHSAA school broadcast program. I mean, we've got 200 schools, Lauren, that have now installed Pixelot units across the state, and about 30 schools have jumped on since COVID-19. Just looking down the road for next year, because they may be thinking that, hey, we're going to have to find a way to get these games to our fans.
Yeah, absolutely. And those who aren't familiar with Pixelot, it's kind of an unmanned system that kind of just follows the action. It's pretty interesting technology. All right, it's not a secret, John, that you will be retiring at some point, but not before you see a huge passion project, hopefully see its completion. On the MHSAA's YouTube channel, you've been uploading complete boys basketball semifinals and championship basketball games dating back as far as the 1940s. Tell us how the project is going and why you decided to see this through.
Well, actually, first of all, the retirement is going to happen in December. And this was the retirement gig, was to take all of this content, this pile of this mess that I created over the last 34 years of photographs and box scores and videos and audios, and get them out there for people to enjoy. And what's happened during this downtime because of the virus, that, hey, we didn't have any games to produce for MHSAA TV right now with our spring championships. So we started working on the YouTube project, and we've got about 140 titles of old boys basketball semifinals and finals from 1949, Coldwater and River Rouge. And Coldwater won that game, by the way. In fact, they trounced River Rouge, and it changed Lofton Green's coaching style forever. But that's another story for another time.
Yeah.
All the way up right now to 1999. And so, and right now, since, things are going to start rolling with getting ready for the fall, that's kind of where we're going to hold it for the time being. But the thing that's absolutely amazing to me about that, Lauren, is that we put some of these games up with no fanfare, no promotion. This is the first promotion that's happened of it, is me talking to you about this today.
Right.
We've got some games featuring some of the southeastern side of the state schools, city schools, Flint schools, that have had over 2,000 views so far. So that's kind of fun to see that organic growth, and we think, hey, we'll get more of it. We're going to add girls basketball next, from the 70s all the way up to 99. And then we're going to be just filling it in after that. Football and volleyball and wrestling and baseball, whatever we've got. We've got over 700 titles that, we want to get up in due time, and we will get them up in due time. But really, I had kind of planned on that starting that next fall, not this spring.
All right. And if viewers tune in to Fox Sports Detroit on Friday, football's back, at least some of the best championship football games from the last 15 years or so.
Well, that's right. Starting, I think, at noon, we've got East Grand Rapids and Orchard Lake St. Mary. The 5 overtime game is one of them. We've got Muskegon taking on Warren De La Salle. Rockford and CC are going to square off. And then Grand Ledge and Ike, which is probably one of the most incredible finishes to a high school football game I've ever seen, with Grand Ledge scoring with 50 seconds to go, getting the onside kick, and 2 plays later scoring the winning touchdown. But that'll be all day on Fox Sports Detroit. We're working with Brian Henry and some other folks over there. Hopefully we'll get some more games coming on there, give people their fix for high school sports.
All right, great. I want to thank the MHSAA Director of Broadcast Properties, John Johnson, for coming on the show today. We appreciate you keeping the channels of communication open for us and our audience. Let's talk again when we have more news regarding the fall sports season and beyond.
We sure will, Lauren. Thanks for having me on today.
All right, John, thank you very much. Let's take a look at today's clip of the day.
And that's your clip of the day.
All right, well, there you go. Send us a link to your clip on any of our social media platforms. We'll check it out. Now let's check out today's game changers and when is the right time to see a sports medicine physician.
If you have an injury that keeps you out of sport for a week or longer, you should definitely see a physician. And the difference between a sports medicine specialist and a primary care doctor is not only will you get a diagnosis and a treatment plan, but a sports medicine doctor will look at the whole athlete. They'll look at, first of all, what caused that injury. They'll look at nutrition. They'll give them an exercise program that not only gets you back into your game, but will improve your sports performance.
Okay, we have 15 segments, game changer segments you can find on any of our social media platforms or our playlist on YouTube. State Champs RoboZone, the platform that covers everything competitive robotics. Search RoboZone Show on any of our social media platforms and on our free streaming app. State Champs Esports Twitch channel is where you check out a ton of streaming esports action, including the upcoming League of Legends High School State Championship. That is coming up in 2 weeks. So search State Champs Esports. Check out their playoffs right now on Twitch. Let's check out the results of yesterday's Hungry Howie's Twitter question of the day. What did you think of the MHSAA's guideline for the return of sports? Most of you think it's about what you expected. Now, obviously, we're going to get an update later today, so stay tuned. There is going to be new information based on what Governor Whitmer said yesterday. Okay, tomorrow on Live, we'll talk with Total Softball's Donnie Dreher to discuss the pandemic effects on the entire softball scene. He is in constant communication with college coaches. It's going to be a good discussion. Join us at 2 p.m. And if you know of a guest you'd like to see here on Live, email our show coordinator, Amanda. Her address, amanda@yellowflagproductions.com. Have a great rest of your day.
Right now, we are all longing for the roar of a crowd, the excitement of a stadium filled with cheering fans, and the ecstasy of celebrating a hard-fought victory. But right now, we're all on the same team, and we must do our part to make sure as many students, athletes, coaches, teachers, parents, and loved ones are there when we have the luxury to resume our rivalries and start rooting for our teams once again. Stay home and stay safe.
State Champs Live is presented by Lawrence Technological University, where Blue Devils dare, Hungry Howie's, famous for flavor, and the Detroit Medical Center. Do you have a sports injury or are just looking to take your game to the next level? Go where the pros go. Visit dmc.org/gamechangers.